Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock D Dream Nation, and I've got a very special guest, living Aussie legend, John Swan or Swanee. How's it going, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Well, Swanee, you have finally got an album out called Believe. First album in 11 years. It's coming out in the 1st of August, I believe. This is an album of duets involving such folk as Jimmy Barnes, Diesel, John Stevens, Colin Hay, Melinda Schneider. Firstly, welcome back. What attracted you to record an album of duets?
Um, I spent about 15 years doing a whole bunch of charity work, and that once I got into it, I found that if you're not going to anything I do, if you're going to do it, you get right into it, do it properly, you know. But so that took me away from music because I found that there was a greater need there for me, you know, like because I was using my music there. Um, and I just had I got to a point where I was lying there and I decided that this is something I will got to do for my family, you know, because I have no legacy. I don't have all of that stuff because of my past behavior, you know,
Hmm.
so I just dreamt about having Jim and Alan there and having a song with them. It was a whole all I wanted, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought I was watching the Matildas playing, and I decided to send a text out, and I did want just a simple paragraph, and then I said, "I'm thinking of doing a duets album. Would you like to join me?" And I sent it to my favorite people. Not one single person knocked me back. The strange thing is, you know, when or you especially know when rock and rollers, when you try to get them on the phone, they're bloody hopeless, you know, like, and not hopeless. They're either flat out or they're there, you know, like, and um, I put the phone down. I sent it off to the people there, and I'm thinking, geez, wouldn't that be a dream? You know, my phone went bing, 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 just when the Matildas scored, and I'm looking at that and deciding which one I'm going to look at first. So I picked the phone up, and there's Colin Hay in Peru, and it's just got F and oath, you know, about
Yeah.
Dave, because he's a fellow Glaswegian, you know, like,
Hmm.
and Jimmy, yeah, definitely, you know, Mahalia. Mahalia's the hardest one to get because, like, she's today's Renee. You know, like to me, she's got that. She's going to take that stature that Renee had because that would be the girl that I would have had in there. Wendy's.
Definitely Renee Gayer for the folks just wondering.
Yeah, I beg your
Would
pardon.
have been fantastic.
See, I always loved that
Oh,
stuff. You know, I've never heard a bad word come out. I mean, I heard bad words come out of her mouth, but I've never heard her sing a bad word.
were you ever close to doing something with her in
We were,
in your journeys?
yeah, we were so close. We did It's a Man's World at Mark Hunter's funeral. His wake. You're not the wake. What do you call it? At Selena's, all the
Yeah,
Selenas gather.
yeah.
You know, like I would do anything for Todd and the boys. You know, like, and she said, "Let's do It's a Man's World." I said, "I haven't rehearsed it." She said, "Neither have I." So we'll both be in the same boat. You know. Renee's no straight to the point. You know, we did it, and I wish we had recorded it. It was my wife said it's the best thing she's ever heard me do. You know.
If there are any folks that got bootlegs, just put it up. I'd
You
love
know
to. I'd
what?
love to see it, and I'll share it with you, John.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure some. You never know.
you
Things
never
pop
know.
out.
Hey,
Things pop out.
I've seen some of the desk tapes that are was sort of starting to front up now. But that getting Mahalia was a very special thing because you're putting her in with Wendy Matthews and everybody else. Mahalia is such a together girl. I had to
Mm.
listen to her doing. I did People Get Ready, and I sent her the acoustic guitar. Ronnie Pierce played the acoustic guitar for me, and I sung and sent it down to her. She said, yeah, all right. Sent it back. And I went, that's it. That's it. And she went, no, 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 I'll do it better. And I went, no, 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 it's fine. It's fine. It's just you've captured it. You've done it raw, you know. And I had that with every single one of them. Diesel's one was the strangest thing. He said to me on the text, he said, bloody oath, you know, like, let's go. And next morning at 8 o'clock, I get a phone call. Me getting up at 8 o'clock is not usual things in the world, you know. And a musician being awake at that time in the morning. Anyway, he said, "Man, I had a dream about you last night, and I dreamt you, and you were singing a song, and I was playing, and he said, I got out of bed, and I went into the studio, and I grabbed my guitar, and I put it down, and I put a vocal on it. Do you mind if I send it to you?" I said, "No, no, no, send it now." So he sent it to me. I had a listen, same sitting here like I am with you. I had a listen to it, and I just went, "I love it." So
Mm.
I took part of his vocal off, and I sung in it, and I sent it back to him to see if what he thought, whether it would be okay or not. By lunchtime, that song was finished. He just took the bare bones of what the song needed. You know, no drums, no bass, no nothing. Just his one guitar, his vocal, and my. I think I had two runs at the vocal. You know, he did it just to show me that this is a song I thought would be good. I had a dream about you, and this is your song. You know, you got to sing it. And I went, "Oh, okay." You know, and the whole album started to get like that. You know, it's almost like at 73, I finally believe that the universe does unfold. You know, if you look or if you move towards it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there certain songs that you had in mind for the artists that you chose? Like, for example, okay, I've got to put a swampy blues song. Let's get Russell Morris with "My Maker I Am One." I mean,
Yeah.
this it seems like the songs really fit the artist.
Well, you know what? I was listening to it, and I loved it. I was trying to learn to play it, and I thought, geez, I'd love to do this, but I do it as a duet, you know. And you know, his head popped up in my head, and because I've heard him so many times, him and Caddy do that thing, you know, like when they,
Yeah.
you know, and Russell's one of the best guys in the world, man. He's one of the dearest men, you know.
Mm.
But when he talks, he talks like that, you know, and that's the tone I wanted for that. I'm the preacher.
Bit gritty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The blues, you know,
Yeah.
he's got that deep of blues. He's known for I am the real thing. Come and see the real thing. La, la, la.
But his voice has
Uh,
evolved, hasn't it?
yeah, it's just he has been there since long before me, you know, like, and I was 14 playing with Lynn Randell on Chow Baby. It was a hit, you know, and he had
Mm.
somebody's image, I think it was. But you know, songs like that, the song itself dictates who does the singing, you know. And I didn't think about it like that. I just sent it to Russell. He went, "Oh," sent it back, and he said, "Ah, send it back. Give me it back again." You know, so I sent it back, and he did it again, and it was just better. You know, I went with the one he gave me first because it was raw, it was real. That's what I was after with this album, to keep it real. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Was it difficult to choose a song to do with Jimmy? Because I guess there's going to be a lot of expectations of finally John and Jimmy.
and,
Um,
and
did
now
you feel any pressure that we've just got to get the right song? You know?
no, no,
No.
no, no, no. Jim and I, you know, we grew up in the same room. There was just a set of bunks, you know,
Yeah.
like literally we had this little tiny record player. Remember those
Mm.
ones that used to lift the lid up and you pull the handle back and you put it down? And I was listening to like Eddie James, Mahalia Jackson, because that's what my dad used to listen to, Nat King Cole and all these people. So Jim got influenced by that sort of stuff, you know. There was never ever a problem about music with Jim. You know,
Yeah.
he's not one of those guys. He's the most generous man, you know, that I know. I can't say to him, "Oh, lovely day. Geez, I like that shirt," you know, because he'll say, "Oh, right, cool. Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? Got it in Paris." But, sure, champion. Anyway, comes down about 10 minutes later. He's got the shirt and he said, "I want you to have that." I said, "What for?" He said, "I got six of them." I went, "No, you haven't." And I found out later on off at one of the kids, he went upstairs, got changed, took the shirt off, wrapped it up like it was already been there, you know, like he did get six of them. And I'm wearing that shirt and I'm like, you know, where am I going to wear a silk shirt? That's the type of guy he is musically. He will give you literally his heart out of his mouth. You know, we both, people say, is there a competition? No. Is there, you know, there's a brotherly thing there. There is that thing that comes naturally with brothers where there's a competition. You know, we've always been, both of us we're both not going to lose. You can't,
Yeah.
whatever you give us, we will not lose at it because Jim is he's probably the hardest working rocker in Australia.
Absolutely.
You know,
To me, my ears, I found that the most emotional part of the album. It,
yeah.
it felt really heartfelt, and I was a bit surprised because I'm thinking, oh, what would they do? Would they do a rocker? But it's a very tender song, very emotional.
It's easy. We've done the rocker stuff. Like
Yeah,
we do that live. We used to do that with Bon and Michael Hutchins, myself, and Jim on stage for the encore. Like
yeah.
at Family Inn in Sydney or somewhere like that. Because the boys used to roll up because there was a drink there. So,
Mm,
but at this stage of our life, we both want to leave things that are a legacy for our kids and our grandkids. Like
mm,
I think that because you're a certain age, doesn't mean to say that you don't love music as much as what you always did. These songs are timeless, like Sam Cooke's the greatest of all, like I
100%.
that was easy. That was Joe Camilleri, bang, straight away, not even a blink.
Yeah,
And you know what he's like. Each one, I know you may think it's a bit strange, but each one of these men are the sweetest men that you know. John Stevens. Not one of them asked me, "Oh, what song? Oh, what about if I do this? What about Jack Jones?" I said, "I want you to do this with me." And he went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Love the song, man. Love the song." If I had said, "Let's do Manic Depression off the Hendrix album," he'd gone, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." Because they enjoy the company. They know musically that you're gonna kill it.
yeah. Were there any performances that really surprised you and you went, wow, I didn't expect that?
Ooh, no, I expected that. I know these guys. I love these guys. There's not.
Yeah,
They're not. This isn't an album for me. This is a collection of my friends and my family finally getting. It's like a book. You can tell
yeah,
them that you love them because I do anything for John Stevens. And the few people that have passed away, Chet, John Stevens, John Stuart Fraser would have been on this album because he's another one. There's people
yeah,
that you love. It's not that I don't love other people in the industry. It's just that these songs suited that person, and that
yep,
person is the one I text. Not
yep,
nobody was sort of going, "Oh, how come you didn't put me on your album?" The age group that these guys are, and they're still working their butts off.
mm,
They managed to leave the studio, leave the stage, go to the studio, do a vocal, and come in. Mossy, you know, there's a little story that I've got that, in my mind's eye, I seen we when I was first when Chisholm were first together, we moved up to Armadale because Don was doing his quadrant mechanics degree. Right? He's got his masters now. And we were living in this little place just outside Kentucky. Come on, sounds like a cowboy song. It had no toilet, no hot water. The windows were smashed, all that sort of stuff. And Mossy used to get about with a pair of black jeans, and no top, bare feet, and he'd have an acoustic and he'd go up and sit up the top of the hill. And I'd see him out in the morning. I'd be going out for a wee or something. And I'm going, with my feet. He's got nothing in his feet, and he's gone up the hill, and he's sit up there and he's playing this. He was one of these guys who meticulously worked on his phrasing, like with not just Stevie Wonder, with everybody. That's why he's as good as what he is today.
and he sings beautifully. Hasn't it just timeless vocals?
Yeah.
Um,
The,
Rick Rick Springfield. People forget he's a very tasty guitar player.
absolutely.
You got him on that track with Dave.
Dave. Well,
Dave Leeson. Yeah,
Dave's a quintessential street rogue. Like he really is just the best rock and
mm,
roller. He's so down to earth. It's unbelievable.
yeah,
But he's a guy that in one show here in Coffs Harbour there was Jim, Diesel, John Stevens, Dave, and I got invited in, and I wasn't singing. I was just driving up there, So I drove it into the show, and as I'm going in, Jim's run out. I've got out my car. He's run at me and he's giving me a big cuddle. They're behind Stevens. did we? And there's Dave at the back, and he's going like this. He's waiting for everybody else to move, and as soon as they moved, he comes running across. He goes, brother, how are you? You know, like I've never felt so at home in my life with four. They're starring, and I'm just rocking up. You know, like they said, you got to get up. I said, no, 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 no. Sure, sure, you do your stuff. And Dave walked me to my car, and you know, I said to him, mate, you've got to do this song. And he said, I've already said I'd do it, you know. And I said, really? He said, yeah, yeah, of course I will. He said, I'll do anything for you, man. He said, I love you, you know. And I just went, okay. You know, I just walked away from four guys that I loved, that I wanted to play with all my life. And I have been playing with all my life, you know.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, no matter what it is, the good outweighs anything. You know, there's nothing bad about those guys. They're all heart.
Yeah. And was Rick easy to get, or did you just send him a file? And yeah.
Roger McLaughlin. And, you know,
Mm.
there's another chap. I shall get his name for you. I'm sorry. I should have had it. Froggy will kill me. Because he looked after Zoot when Daryl got sick. Because I was doing Cotton Keys Morris because Jim got sick. I used to live with Jim in Melbourne. So
Jim Keys, right?
yeah, I was a drummer in his band, you know, and I used to sleep on his couch when I wasn't his drummer. You know, he's just an amazing man. So Russell and those guys are the same. They're people who are in your heart, not just in part of a musical team. It's like being a football team, you know. You lose your striker, you're knackered, you know. Like, but these guys, but it comes out in the music because they share the love. It's not sort of all about love. It's the respect. You know, that's a good idea. Let's do that. You know.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I want to go down memory lane a little bit. So in 1975, you replaced Bon Scott in Fraternity.
Yeah.
A lot of folk believed that you should have been the next singer of ACDC when Bon passed in 1980.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, John?
Okay. I've got a friend, another one. If he could sing, he'd be on the album. Mark Opitz. He's just a great guy, you know.
Yep.
I'm fortunate that I've been blessed with great friends, and they're guys who are at the top of their game, you know. And that doesn't. I'm not trying to make that a reflection on me because I was lucky to be in that area, you know. He was in the meeting. He did it once on an ABC thing he was doing. He's sitting in Albert's in George's old studio, and he said, "You know, I would have thought for sure Swanee got it because he was their engineer during the shoot. I used to be in there when Bon was doing the vocals and the guitars were going down. The guitars were going down. I should say the band was playing. They played in the studio like they do on stage. Angus are doing all of this.
Yeah.
You know, and Phil's wow. You know, there's none of this. Can you play a bit softer or just bring that out? They've got mics here, they've got mics there, you know. And George and Harry sitting behind the desk. Bon comes out of this little booth that's filled out with smoke and he was writing the lyrics to Long Way to the Top or High Voltage or something. And he's going, you know, I could have done better. I could have done better. And George said, no, he says, perfect. He said, you have just convinced me that you're that person in that lyric. I can hear the pain. And that was what made Bon Bon. You know, we're not talking about being brilliant singers. We're talking about being a master, you know, like at portraying the character. You know, he's a rogue. He's a rogue, lovable rogue, you know. He should have been one of I guess he's like the guy from the Stones. What's his name? Yeah, Keith. You know, like
the same. When I interviewed Angry Anderson, he said street poet.
Yeah,
they were like the street poets.
See, Angry is an articulate little shit. You know, like no, and there's another one I love. You know, like but there wasn't a song that I could do with him on there because if I put him on there, you know, because Andy Sean, who's now a bass player from Australia, he's working with Billy Joel and people like that now. He was in my band. And when I got the resume, I looked at it, and there's this guy plays piano, plays bass, plays guitar, sings beautifully. He's a bodybuilder, so he's got cut like you wouldn't believe. He's good looking, he's Italian. and he sings like a frigging bird, you know. And I looked at the thing, and I had been drinking, so I went, "Oh, if he's that good, nobody's that good," you know. He sent the same one to Angry, and Angry just, yeah, all right. So he went and joined the Tats, and then he came back to my band. But you know, the the level of musicianship that those guys have got, the Tats have got to run them. The Tats band's my band. We swap backwards and forwards, drummers. Now it's Icehouse's drummers. You know, like that's the great thing about being this age and the rock and roll industry, because unfortunately, I'm very sad that the younger guys won't have people like, you know, pop slide playing, you know, and it's not just
Mm,
slide playing, it's the look, the feel, you know, the whole thing. It's being part of it. You live in that life. You're not just
yeah,
a guitar in a band. You are part of Rose Tattoo, you know. But
yeah,
with this album, these guys could fit in anywhere. You could put
yeah,
them in anywhere. You know, they're the utility team from heaven. You know, for me,
absolutely.
I just think that um, I couldn't have picked better singers. Not that there isn't better singers, but for these songs, I wanted to do, because I'm a Susan Szewski freak. You know, like the slide player Derek Trucks is her husband, and they do. I heard him doing a Bob Dylan song. I'm not a Bob Dylan fan. I respect his songwriting, but I don't like his vocals. But I love what other people do to his songs. So I heard her doing "Ain't No Use to Sit and Wonder Why, Babe," you know, and I thought, Wendy, that's Wendy Matthews, you know, because there's no Renee. There's no,
Yeah,
there's no Renee.
yeah,
That's Wendy Matthews. You know, I already got Mahalia. You know, I couldn't ask her to do two songs. That would be really not fair, you know. And
yeah. But you got the right fit for
hey,
it. Seemed it just fits
Wendy,
like a glove. Yeah.
Wendy sings that song so Wendy that I like it
Mm,
like that now. I wouldn't have liked a Susan or a more blues version because the song's a
mm,
rock song, you know. So,
yeah.
and she's such a beautiful lady, mate. You know, to this
Absolutely.
we used to do a
Absolutely.
lot of session work when we were younger, and who would turn up? Wendy every time, you know, like
Yeah.
just she's a really really nice lady.
Absolutely. But getting back to the ACDC, Mark Opitz, you were
Yeah.
mentioning Mark. Yeah.
Well, you know, there was a few of us. Jim got called up, and not. I don't even know if they're a call up. I think it's more that people, because if I had heard it from FIFA Riccobono, I would have said, "Yeah, I got asked to join SADC, blah blah blah." You know, because
Yeah.
FIFA's a boss. She, you know, she says what goes, and I respect her so much. I love her to death
Yeah.
because she loves SADC to death. But Malcolm said to me. You know, it's a pity. And we were talking, and he said, it's a pity, you know, like he said, you just drink that much. He said, I said, yeah. Well, so for me, if I had joined the band, I would have been dead in a fortnight. You know, it wouldn't have taken that long. You would have found, and then there'd have been two people that I grew up with ACDC. They weren't that big when Velvet Underground. You know, like
Yeah.
they're the boys. Even now, they live around the corner. You know, they drive a 180 Mercedes, and they're loaded to the. You know, and I
Yeah.
say, yeah, tight ass, you know. And he's got Dunlop volleys and Amco t-shirts, Amco jeans, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing is about hitting nails. It's all about be real to you. And I couldn't have done that to those boys because they would have lost two brothers in a fortnight. You know?
But I can imagine you singing Back in Black. It would
Oh,
just, because your voice has a soul element
yeah.
and it would have just added a different dimension to that
Yeah,
sort of
well,
music, that soul
I'll tell you,
sensibility.
I'll tell you a nice thing that I like about this story. And I know we're on about belief, but this is nice. George was in the studio one night when I was sitting there just at the desk myself, just having a listen to some of the mixes I was doing. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What does it look like?" And he went, "Oh." I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing here?" He said, "I just got the acetates for Back in Black, the very first copy of it." I said, "You're joking. Can I hear it?" He said, "Sure. Take it." I took it. I was just sitting there. But I went home with acetates in those days. You couldn't play that very often because you have to once or twice. And
Because it degrades.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And a young kid that I knew, he was madly in love with ACDC. He was a freak, and he used to come around. I gave him my Bond crew shirt, the ACDC crew shirt, and I don't need to have any of that sort of stuff because in my heart and in my mind's eye, I can see every moment we spent together. I had the Youngs cousins staying at my place, because there wasn't enough room at their place, but at their grandma's place, at Burwood.
Mm.
It's a rock and roll story that you know you're just wonderful to be a part of. And being an ACDC, like I said, I would have been dead in a fortnight. They asked me to join Flash in the Pan, and I couldn't do it because I was drinking too much.
Yeah, it's probably the same reason why Stevie Wright, he was in the frame too. They probably didn't think he wasn't the right fit too.
I used to do Evie on the side. He'd say, "Can you back me up? Just do Evie on the side," because I recorded it on George's anthology album, and I'd been rare. He said, "I'll give you a wink when I want you to come in," and I'd be sitting there, and I've got the delay exactly the same as his. I've got the reverb the same. Spent the drove the poor guy out front of the house mad. I'm standing behind the thing waiting for him, and and I'm expecting him to crack any minute, and he's sort of wobbling. And I've got to help out, So big breath, and I just watch. I'm watching and watching. And he looked around at me and he winked like this, and he went, "I got it. I got it." And my heart just melted because everybody beforehand was going, "Oh, poor Stevie, he looks like a wreck. He sounds terrible." Blah, 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 blah. He nailed it up against a wall, Never put a fighter down, I love
You
it.
got you guys were the mainstay of the pub rock scene in the 70s and 80s. Was there a lot of camaraderie with
It
the
was
bands, or was it competitive?
No,
Like,
it was only comparatively. Okay, you're Melbourne, right? So say
I'm in Sydney,
you're
but I remember
yeah,
Swanee,
uh,
you know,
you know,
all the traps.
okay, if we were in Melbourne and I was playing Matthew Flinders 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock I'd be at London Tavern or somewhere like that, and somewhere else at 7, and then at 10 you'd be at Bombay Rock. Then at 2 you would be at what was it called? I'll think about it a second. And what we used to do was we got the first gig, put the PA up, and it was always a revolver big gig because it was when the first big PAs came in. Jans put them up, And I think Sherbet was one, and Skyhooks was another one. They were the bands that were on the same places we were playing. They were headlining that day. So after we played our gig, somebody would come in. We'd leave our PA there. Their roadies would be at the next gig, setting it up. Then they'd come around and you give them a carton of beer, bottle of scotch, pat on the head, and off they go. Those guys, even the road crew today, are still in my heart. If I could have put them on the album, I would, because they gave so much. And that crew would go to that gig. It was a one gig that you did. You set your PA up, did your gig, moved to the next one. That band went back there, used your PA, so, and the
Yeah,
amp line would be there. Instead of carrying, we had a C3 Hammond and stuff like that. Try and carry one of them up the stairs, see how you go. Because we had to do our own roadieing. We
yeah.
couldn't afford those boys. Those boys they were stars,
Absolutely. And to the folks in the Northern Hemisphere, there was the pub rock scene in Australia in the 70s and 80s. You could see a band 7 days.
Oh yeah, well we played 4 gigs a day.
Yeah, absolutely. The gig guide was in the paper and it would just be like 10 pages.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Swanee would be playing like every night. I mean, 365 days,
Yeah, I've got posters with the ACDC, Angels, Swanee, Midnight Oil, bloody, Feed,
Yeah.
you name it. But everybody was mates,
Yeah.
somebody got a new guitar and somebody would try it, and you go, "Oh yeah, can I use it tonight? Yeah, sure. You'll have to come to the gig." So that person who you're going to borrow that guitar off would roll up at your gig so that
Mm,
you could use his guitar. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that happened in a lot of good places around the world, in America, in
mm,
Britain. I know for a fact because Mark Moffat told me, he worked in a store and it was all about Steve Marriott, Jimi Hendrix, and those guys who he would be telling the stories because they would come in and pawn their guitars.
yeah.
You're pawning your guitar. That's what you used to do here, because we just it was just we never had the money. We were lucky to have money to out of that 4 gigs, you might get enough money to get the truck to Wollongong, and the
Mm,
money from Wollongong would pay for the accommodation and the petrol to Sydney, So it's a great experience, and that's what kids today are missing out. And I wish I could take them all back through there and show them, because when you see ACDC come on stage at the Sandringham at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they have pissed in. Angus didn't drink, just smoked like a train, and they just come out and you get hit with this. It's real. It's not. There's no bullshit. It's just real.
but the audiences could get tough because they're fueled on beer. Billy Thorpe, suck more piss. Did you have a particular approach to win over the punters, the rowdy punters, if they got a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen ACDC get off a stage and start get into somebody.
Yeah. But
Somebody.
did you have any particular techniques to, sort of?
I was doing Zendukai, and I was a state boxing champion and amateur
Yeah,
boxer. But it wasn't so much that; it's if they hurt your mates, you go in.
yeah.
School of and all of those guys would have done it. They're not fighters. ACDC were. I'll give them.
Mm,
But and but Angry is one of the softest, most gentle men in the world. Like so. As I speak about all the guys who are around Believe, they're all the same. They've got good hearts, but don't cross them. Don't you treat them like a fool, you will be humiliated. And you, if you treat them like a fool, you probably won't get much out of them.
yeah, absolutely. You had a knack in the 80s for
Yeah.
covering songs that just fit your voice to a T. If I Were a Carpenter was a
Ah,
huge hit for you. What inspired you to cover that song?
I was asked to go and support Joe Cocker and hear Leon Russell, Cornell Dupree, and those
Mhm.
guys in the band. They were idols too. It's not just Joe Cocker, because I was looking at the drummer and the guitar player and the piano player, and I just thought, yeah. And I heard she came into the bathroom, and I thought, wow, I'd love to, because I'm Bobby. I like all music. I love music. If it's played well, I don't care what genre it is. I don't care who,
Mm,
man, woman, soul singer, as long as it's done well and there's some finesse to the technique. Um, and I heard Cocker do that till she came in through the bathroom window, and I just went away, and I just started to figure if I were a carpenter, because I used to play where Bobby Darin played it.
so it was like a light bulb went
Oh, yeah.
off.
Many,
I,
many. I could tell you many stories of that, and I'm sure it happens to musicians all around the world. They see some. I know Springsteen will have heard something by somebody else, and he'll throw it into his set done that way.
mm,
You know, so I mean, I think that's the greatest, and that was the one that Mark Opitz was doing the production on, and me and him were in at Rhinoceros, Billy Field's studio, and there was just me and him. And he said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm singing." He said, "Have another drink and slow down." I said, "All right, why?" He said, "Because you're out there." He said, "You're firing every shot you've got in that first verse." He said, "It's almost like an M60 being fired at people." He said, "I want you to put a smaller gun in your hand for the first verse, get it bigger for the second one, and by the end, you can put the machine gun back on and you can go for it." So what he said, but it was quite, save your ammunition. So put it at the end. Nobody ever spoke to me about that. And from that, you learn off the best, because he learned off of George. So he was George's um, apprentice. And I've been fortunate. I've been blessed all the way through to have these guys in my life. And being in their recording studios it's more than just about your own life. You're in the recording studio and you're watching some of the biggest albums that are ever going to be in the world. I had guys like John Bon Jovi sit me down and trying to stop me drinking. Um, I took Cocker out and got him pissed at the line. We went downstairs to where the service people used to be, and we just put a bottle of scotch down there and some beers and stuff like that. And the guy said, Joe Cocker, and he go, yeah, sure, Joe Cocker, like they would send the drinks down. And then he come down, he go, it's Joe Cocker. Yeah, he's just coming, he wants a drink the same as anybody else. Nicest guys, Rod Stewart, my
Yeah,
calm and a piece. I could go on all day. But Froggy will kill me because he wants me to talk about belief. And I got to tell you that when you've got somebody that dedicated behind you, he like the singers are, that type of thing. You know what I mean? And people like
absolutely.
yourself who do what you do because you love what you hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about two more songs which I really love of yours. The David Skinner and John Kennett songs,
Yeah.
"Lady, What's Your Name" and "Temporary Heartache." What attracted you to those songs?
Bottle of scotch. And some other things, but I won't mention.
Yeah,
But
I mean
I had
the arrangements of those songs are exquisite because they've kind of got that real orchestral sound that you
my
don't really
piano player,
hear in pop music anymore.
my piano player, Peter Cacell, who committed suicide shortly after it. Um, we played hard.
Yeah,
But Gibson Kemp, who was a drummer at the Beatles at one stage, came over here, and he was looking after Warner Brothers A&R, and he says to me, "Do you want to make money or do you want to make records?" I said, "I want to make good records." He said, "Well, I think you should have a go at making some money." So we tried Temporary Heartache, and I was a bit. I know it's a terrible thing to say, but I wasn't knocked out. I like the song. I
mm.
think the song would suit somebody else. It'd be a big hit. But for
Yeah,
me, did
huge.
I want to go down that road?
Yeah,
Don't want to fight like that.
yeah.
And then Dave Skinner came around and he banged on a door and he's standing with a bottle of scotch under his arm. I was in Bondi Junction, and I had a grand piano, a baby grand in the corner,
Yeah.
and he said, he said, "Can I play a piano?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, and he used to call it mincing. He'd mince around on the piano, and he's going, "No, no, 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 no," and he sang a little bit. He sort of played it, and I said, "Yeah, oh, I like that." And he said, "Yeah." So sung some words, and he had some rough words, and uh, more scotch I drunk, the better it got. By the end of the night, we were convinced that we're going in the studio the next day to do it. Same
Mm.
thing happened with Temporary Heartache. Sail Away was exactly the same. I did
Yeah.
I did an album down the snow at Jindabyne, and we were recording for 4 days with the live Jan's mobile. We had the American people like Kalodna, Rafina, and those guys all down there ready to take us to the States because John Brommer was telling me that Crazy Dreams was going to go on Frampton Comes Alive. If it had happened, I'd have been the richest guy in Australia. But it didn't. So it didn't really bother me that much. I look back at it and I just think, oh, well, that's nice. That's a compliment. But I
Yeah.
was really happy for John because he worked his ass off to do it. And that's when you got good people behind you, it's the same as having good people in the studio.
But the production on those albums, like I've got, well, here's a little
Oh,
album that you might be familiar with, and
my wife in the corner.
really,
Yeah,
there you go, a little bit of
lucky boy.
trivia. This did well for you, the greatest hits.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
piss?
Molly's shirt because I certainly was a Swans fan.
Yeah, maybe Collingwood supporters wouldn't have bought this album, but anyway.
Yeah,
But Ready for Action, Bushido.
yeah.
You were on the top. The Countdown experience. What was it like being part of that family? Because that got you into televisions and the homes of all around Australia.
Oh, because they treated me the same way as what Angus and Malcolm and all them treated me. I was up having a drink in some place in George Street in Sydney, and some guys had a go at Molly and about certain things, and unfair. And I thought that was very unfair. So I spoke up and Molly belted him. And these guys, about six of them jumped in. So I jumped in for Molly. Ever since then, mate, he's been, I thought if you're man enough to stand up and wear it proud, and you're prepared to fight for, your honor and your
Mm.
dignity, I'll back you all the way to the hill. And he just used to like me because I told him the truth, whether it was good or bad.
Straight shooter.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it got me in trouble with, I think I got in trouble with Grace Jones or something, and Molly came up and he said, "Oh, you're blowing it now." And I said, "No, I haven't." And she came back in the room and she said, "Oh, well." And I said, "How are you feeling?" And she said, "Good." I said, "You better get up and, reverse the psychology, just pull it back. What you learn on the road, take it into the dressing room. Leave your ego at the dressing room door and start talking to the people. Like that's the way that we like to do it with this recording technique too. I've noticed that.
Yeah. Did you notice when you're on Countdown that you were getting recognised more in the streets? If you were going to the local supermarket,
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
duck and
Oh, yeah. When Carpenter took off, I got to tell you, when Carpenter took off, there used to be a little store down there, and the guy he was either a Greek or a Latin. I think he was Greek. And I got down there and he go, "Jono, what do you want, boy?" I said, "Your beautiful daughters, like, and I had just met Virginia and we got a house in Bondi Junction. And I walk in, he says, "Jono, I see you on the telefish." And I goes, "Telefish?" And she said, "John, he was watching Countdown. Telefish is television. I go,
yeah.
all right. So from then on, everything, see you on the television. I say, "We're on Telefish Wednesday." He goes, "Good." Best thing that happened, mate, is when you're in a roadhouse in the middle of the Hay Plains and you're sitting there and you walk in, it's full of trackies and they're all sort of looking at you like they'd like to sort of rip you to bits. And the TV's going, and we're sitting in the corner, very sheepishly eating fish and chips off of one plate by six guys. And all of a sudden, you come on telly, and they look up and they go, "Oh, wow, it's you!" Bang! There's the instant change, from being rough as guts who hated us to death because we represented everything they didn't like.
Mm,
And we were normal blokes who were trying to get one car and the gear and the band up to
yeah.
Sydney. So it it's a marvelous experience. It's a journey that I wish everybody could take. I wish I could take the one that I took because I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of guys. I got to sing Tin Soldier with Steve Marriott. He was one of my biggest idols.
That's great.
Yeah. But
Those albums are so well crafted. Those ones. Those. Was there any opportunities overseas to
at all,
Was there?
I've got no desire.
Yeah.
It's good. Everybody that's on that album is on there for a reason. Like I love them and I have a personal connection with them, and they
Yeah.
do their craft so well.
Right. Right.
That's why I called it Believe. I know it sounds crazy, but I believe that things are meant to happen for a reason.
So you were quite content just stay in Australia and not try to conquer the world sort of thing.
No, no. I mean, my brother's been trying to send me to Scotland first class, like and go to
Yeah.
school, that sort of stuff. I'd
Yeah.
sooner, I'd sooner I'm a I'm very reclusive. I like to sit and play my guitar, and I might play it 6 hours a day. Like because I'm
Yeah.
trying to be a guitar player. And
Yeah.
John, I shouldn't say his name. A certain promoter down in Melbourne, John Sinclair. he says, "Oh, you'll never be a blues player, John." And I said, "Mate, I will be. I promise you." And I'm still here at 73, maybe 50 years later, practically
Mm,
the same stuff, like, because it's what makes me happy. And
yeah.
that's what I want people to hear when they put the album on from start to finish. It takes them through the gamut of emotions.
Absolutely. Party Boys. Now, this is how I experienced you in the live setting. Now, that band just seemed like a ball of fun. You seemed to have a great chemistry in that band and just having fun. Is that what it actually was?
Yeah. But it was as easy as pie. You know,
Yeah.
we went. But the only thing that I think my stipulation was, and I spoke to Alan and John about it more than anything else, was that it stayed. If I joined the band, we don't swap musicians weekly because it was Paul had it set up so well where, surely we would be singing one week, then Richard, then somebody else, then Vincenzo from Adelaide, from the Zep Boys, like.
Right.
And
You wanted a steady lineup,
yeah,
just
but a
to, yeah.
similar type thing, but with the guys that are in that band are all guys from Richard, God bless his soul, from the Divinyls, like listen to the drum beats and the Divinyls that they drive along, you know. Alan Lancaster, Status Quo, and the sweetest, gentlest soul, probably one of the sweetest, gentlest soul I've ever met.
Yeah, everyone seemed to wrap around him. He seemed to be the epicenter of that band. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yeah, everybody protected him, because
Yeah,
he didn't need protecting. He certainly spoke his mind, but
yeah.
musically, he had been around when we were watching something last night, a Scottish movie called Looking for Giorgio. And it's really funny because the soundtrack is from that era, and I'm sitting there going, da, 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 and Alan was the founding member, and look, the memories. I send my love and everything to Gail and boys. But yeah, I'll never forget playing with him because he turned up. He was more worried about his hair and everything else. It was a bit like that,
I don't think there was any problems. He had a big thatch of hair
yeah,
too. It
yeah.
was
But we were the exact opposite. We were not worried what we looked like. We were worried how we would come across. So
yeah,
get enough Dutch courage into you, and
yeah,
game of darts. And he'd be sitting over in the corner, and they'd be having a game of backgammon, like
yeah.
everything was very easy and chilled. He was a factor in the band that kept that.
Absolutely. But you guys went gangbusters. You're a big draw card. I saw you a half a dozen times. It was full houses. Number one in the charts.
Before we got out of studio,
Yeah.
my brother rang me up, and Jim rang me up, and he said, "Congratulations." I said, "What for?" He said, "Your single's just gone number one." I said, "Oh, really?" Oh, well, it's all downhill from here. And 2 minutes, courier arrived. This is 1 o'clock in the morning or something. Courier arrived with a big basket full of like cheese thing and Glenfiddich Scotch and stuff like
Mm.
that. And I know that he would have been proud of me at that moment. My big brother's album's number one.
You know that he's going to step on you again.
Yep.
I think of your voice, not John Congus.
If
And I think a lot of folk in this country associate that song with you,
yeah,
not with the original. So that's there you go.
The Argent one, like I play that and I tried to replicate it because somebody asked me to do it the same way Argent did it for a special.
Yep.
And I tried, but I couldn't because, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way,
And that's the art of doing a great cover, putting your spin on it. And I think it's part of culture now that's the version that everyone's got in their head.
I have nothing against cover bands because I believe it's one of the finest forms of flattery is for people to want to cover you. But if you're going to do it, I want it to be better than the original,
100%.
I don't mean that egotistically, but that's the drive inside me that says it's not good enough just to make money off it. You want it to be that good. I want to be able to put my head up,
100%. The chemistry in that band was so good. Did you ever think about, was there any discussion about doing originals and continuing it, or did it just have a limited lifespan?
Oh, look, I don't think it would have been an original band. Nah, honestly, because Paul's pretty smart. He's a good, savvy businessman,
Yeah.
a very, I used to make his life hell, drugs and alcohol and bloody Christ, what else. But then again, he had Joe Walsh and everybody else in the band. They wouldn't let me on stage one night to have a sing. Mark Hunter invited me up for a sing. And then he said, "Oh, no, I'm not getting up for a sing with you." He said, "You sing better than I do, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "That's got nothing to do with it." And Joe Walsh said, "Well, if Mark doesn't want you up there, I don't want you up there." I said, "All right." So I got up with Kevin and Alan and thing we played away. And as he heard me singing, and he grabbed his guitar and he started to jump on the stage, and I put the mic in his chest and I shoved him back down, like I thought, fuck off, excuse my
Yeah, that's all right.
fuck off. You wouldn't listen, you took somebody else's flippant thingy and you weren't going to play with them because, so, and I regretted it ever since because he's
Yeah,
a great guy, great player.
yeah. You left the band. You were replaced by Graham Bonnet for 2 weeks, and then
Oh,
you came back. What
there's,
was that all about?
there's a singer, mate, Graham Bonner. He's a guy I always admired. Well, I guess, my behavior was as such that it was getting hard to handle. We were doing the ACDC tours and things like that. We opened up what's the arena down in Melbourne called? Rod Laver Arena. We were the first band on there before ACDC, and the manageress came down and she said, "You're the very first band, John." I said, "Yeah," and yeah, I think that, I drive the guys mad. I was driving everybody else mad. Why not them? Graham was fantastic. He was really, really good. Cool guy, mate. He married an Adelaide girl, And when I seen him, I just seen this little powerhouse, like Steve Marriott. He was a very powerhouse type of guy. And a voice, you know. But the crowd, there was about 10,000 people over in the North Shore somewhere in a big oval. And Party Boys was headlining. And I wasn't part of the Party Boys, but I went along because I still loved the band, and the guys. So I went along, and the crowd seen me. Unfortunately, the crowd seen me, and he didn't do my songs because it didn't suit him. Didn't he could a couple of people have said it. Like you had to be Swanee to sing that one, and he came off and. Encore was incredible, and they're going Swanee, Swanee, and I took him in my arms and I held him and I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. You deserve so much better," And I think Paul might have said something to me, and I just got up and I walked up to the mic and I said, "You guys fucking got no idea. You don't understand the respect that I have for that man there. He's one of the best in the world,
Mm,
I never went and did it, and I went off. But it wasn't. Even though there was 10,000 people calling the name out, it's not necessarily making me happy.
yeah,
It would have made me happy if they had accepted the fact that he sung it differently to me. He's not me.
yeah,
I'd have try and be anybody else.
yeah, absolutely. Well, he's definitely a powerhouse singer, but to me, I think you're the quintessential singer of that band, and I just have a lot of great memories in the '80s pub rock
Awesome.
days.
I
Just
can't do
seeing,
too
and
many.
you guys just seem to have so much fun. I mean, party boy by nature. It just seemed like a lot of fun on
Well,
stage.
the Party Boys was an ideal name for that band because
Yeah.
uh, I remember I used to have a guy employed who just used his job was to get strawberries, mangoes, and he made daiquiris backstage, and whatever else I put into the daiquiri was all going on stage as well, like
Oh, your rider would have been something to write about. It would be.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was longer than the song list.
I betcha. Hey, I want to talk about some of the other albums post Party Boys because I think it's really important for our viewers that you've got some great material, but probably doesn't get spoken about as
Yeah.
much. A national recording you did in 2007, Have a Little Faith. Was this project a musical, spiritual one for you?
It started out being one. I've still got I've got a song called Old Drunk. I think it'll be probably some of them. The songs that I've got, I found the test pressing, not test pressings, the first runs, and I just thought they'd be great. But there was a thing that Liberation had. What they wanted me to do was to put my hits on there so that they would get a return. And I didn't care if I never got any royalties. I just want they can have that. Let me put just an album together because Mark did my first album. He was. I don't know if you heard the band Kilo. Did you hear Kilo? The Kilo band?
No, I didn't.
Oh, please let me send you that down. I did that
Yeah.
till he died just recently. We were still recording, and it was a separate project that was just for the two of us. The two indulgent pigs. Like very, very, very good guitar player. He produced Yotha Indie. He produced
Right.
Carly. He produced everybody. Saints. He did the Saints album. All of that stuff's his. The guy never got the recognition that he deserved. From this country, it really upset me. And myself and Rob Hurst, Rob's a guy I really admire. He We're trying to put together a memorial to let people know he's got more ARIA awards for #1 albums and singles than anybody else has ever had in this country. Yet he dies, and it's just another guy with pancreatic cancer. And they turn up, and you see it in the social media, and it just says, "Very sad today. Mark Moffat passed away." Like it's like there you go. You're only a post in the media. And
Mm.
I think that's one of the reasons that I got my heart right into to believe. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to get these folk
Yeah, because
together.
I wanted a legacy of being with my family was the first thing. My family
Mm.
still the first one. Singing with Alan and Jim and Mahalia and Ben and Ruby. Jim's granddaughter. Uh, you know, it doesn't get any better than that for me. All the
Yeah,
money in the world will not give me the happiness that I had when I heard that track the first time that came back to me. I was like,
yeah.
wow.
But this project have a little faith. You did a lot of songwriting. Um, do you enjoy the songwriting process? Do
Yeah.
songs come easy to you?
Oh, yeah, I've got some great songs. I really have.
Mm.
But I don't mean that egotistically. I mean just that they stand up against some of the songs that I think are pretty good. Um, and maybe I'll get around to doing it, but this one was for the collection. It's a legacy. It's not just for me. It's for sort of all the boys can have a sing together. Like, and there's a reason for us being there. I believe in friendship. I believe in respect and values. And each one of these guys has my values, and they certainly got my respect. And it's nice to just put one text out and finish up the finished product. Finish in my hands is believe.
Yeah,
From a text to there, you know,
absolutely.
with
Uh,
no money. There's no money in I never had a cent. I sold my guitars. I did everything I could do. It doesn't matter. They're material things. This is something that, I can give to the grandkids and to my sister's grandkids. I lost my sister, and she was Jimmy's backing vocalist in the first solo band. And there's a lot of people passing it because we're getting to that age. I should be well gone, Christ. What I done to my body. It's like, I said to the doctor, can you have a look at my liver? He said, "Mate, onions and bacon." That's the only thing that's going to fix it. but but no, I've got to be entirely honest. I've never felt better. So it feels like my life is sort of at the highest part because I just enjoy the gardening now, and I enjoy playing music and write. I still sit and write silly songs. That I write. I don't find that it sit down and make it try and write something for an album. I write a song. If it fits, great. If it doesn't, it just goes into a package of the songs that I write. And I found that a lot of people are like that. Um, if I had to sit down and write songs for an album and compile it to be in an area, that would be too hard for me because I do love all sorts of music. All I care about is it's played well and sung by good people.
yeah, you're a true genre hopper. That's for sure. Hey, with Believe, are you going to take it out on the road? Because I think these songs deserve to be listened.
Yes,
I'd love to hear
I
it
will.
live.
I will. I mean, I got it. There's one thing it's funny because from Lynn Randell, 14-year-old drummer, she's got a #1 single, and I'm 73, and I've had the life that I've lived, and the people that I've played with and I've met along the way. It's been an absolute, it's just, it's something special. And I couldn't. People said, "Why do you call it Believe?" And oh, like if I didn't want to get behind a religious thing or anything like that because it's all encompasses everything. It's just the universe coming together at the right time for the right reason. Perhaps another one of these guys may not be with us, but at least they'll always be with us on this. And I wanted to leave something of value. That gets all the gold albums and platinum albums, and and the cars and the boats and that. I've had all that shit. That doesn't mean nothing. You know what feels good? I've got this little flat down here. That's my studio. And I've got my guitar, and I've got peace of mind. And I don't wake up sort of hanging out for something. I wake up smelling coffee and flowers that I planted.
Absolutely. So I think the first single that's coming out is
Oh,
Shouldn't Never Let You Go with Melinda Schneider. This is a
wonderful.
a great song. What attracted you to the song and reaching out to Melinda?
Oh, that was easy because I mean, Melinda is one of these girls. There's quite a few of them in the country, so I say country. She can sing anything, anything. But some of these girls are. She does Doris Day particularly well. She does this, and I'm a Doris Day fan. I used to have the hots for her when I was a kid. And it was more the way she looked than the way she said, "I just came down from the Windy City." It's nothing like that. But I see Melinda, and Melinda's the type of person who, whatever she sings her heart is in that particular song. And if you listen to it, it sounds like two lovers, two two people, friends, lovers, whatever you want to say, uh, and the emotion that's in it. I had to redo my vocal because my vocal didn't come up to the emotional standard that she had put into it. When you walk, you know, uh, when I look into your eyes, like that's the type of thing. It's just a word, but when somebody sings it properly and it has that emotion underneath it that just puts the air in and lifts it up, you can see the fairy dust go, pooh, like that's what made me pick her. She's the type of girl who can do that to a melody, and apart from that, she's a really good girl.
Yeah, well, folks, this is a fantastic album, Believe. It comes out on the 1st of August, and I really do hope you do showcase it and go all around the country because you
I
are
will.
based in Adelaide.
I will.
But we'd love to see you in Sydney and just do the traps.
Well, like I said to you, I'm getting together with some of these younger guys who
Yeah.
have so much talent because I want whatever knowledge I've got, I want to be able to pass. There's not much knowledge that I can pass on to these guys because they're serious about what they do.
Mm,
And that's really what it takes. Boxing and stuff like that. I give kids a hand. And some of the kids, you just have to teach them one thing, but they've got the heart and they've got the dedication to keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. Don't give up. The round's not over. The fight's not over at the end of the round. You've got to get to the end of the fight. And Believe. I've got to tell you, has got so many people, and to your good self, people like you who are interested in. I don't find me a particularly interested person. But I'm really admire the fact that you guys like the music and you continue the legacy that we have. We can't get by without you. There's no radio stations anymore. They're all
well,
syndicate.
mate, you've got one of the best voices in the country, and you could sing the bloody phone book, and I'd still buy it. So it's
I'm
been a
working on what's they said? I'm working on the. I can't remember. One of the guys says to me, he said, "What are you working on? Are you working on the menu or something?" Are you? He said, "Well, you're singing." No, I just went.
well. You did do the jingle for what was it, Swan Lager or something, or West End?
West End. I did. Well, you'll be surprised. I did thunder. I did
Yeah,
all of them. Like that was Peter Northcott and myself, and Wendy used to turn up and do the back and forth. We were making a lot of money out of that.
yeah. I'm sure I've heard you in
McDonald's.
lots of jingles. That very distinctive
Yeah. And the
Swanee
thing, the
voice.
thing is that we used to get in. It would cost them a lot more money to get us, but the thing is, we'd walk in and it would be finished in about 5 minutes, as opposed to sitting for 3 hours with an engineer that you're paying $3,000 an hour, just for the engineer, never mind the studio and everything else. And it was, I think Les Scott put me onto it. He said, I'll pay you whatever you want. You just come in and do it. He said, because I know you guys come in, have a listen, take it in, you know what you're going to get. And Peter Northcote had a rowdy going ahead of him to the next session. You know what I mean? So that's how confident, yeah.
I think Stephen Cumming from the Sports said he got more money and royalties out of I Feel
Yes.
Better Now with Medicare than he ever got from a sports album.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why, he's a beautiful man too. But him and Joe Camilleri, I love to death. They're just gentle people. We were doing Countdown, and Stephen Cummings is lying on the floor, and he's got a yellow suit on, and he's lying back. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm so nervous." I said, "So am I." So he's nervous. I'm pacing backwards and shadow boxing and kicking high and all this sort of stuff.
I'd love to have a fly on the wall camera. The green room and Countdown. Mate, you're a living legend. I love this album. I'll do whatever I can to promote it. So, guys and girls, check it out. It is Believe. It's out on the 1st of August.
It's just they put a new website, johnswan.net.au. If they get up to that before Friday 1st of August, they will get the album signed. I'm just trying to get the money together to go down to Canberra to sign it, and then go to Adelaide. Go to Berrima, to Jim's place, and make a film clip for a brother of mine, because that's one thing I want in my heart of hearts.
Fantastic.
I want that to happen, and I want Mahalia sitting there, I want her daughter sitting there, I want her husband sitting there, and the 3 brothers sitting in the middle, and I'll have my photo of my sister who's passed away tucked in very closely. That I've got to go.
Mate, fantastic talking to you. And as I said, I'm so looking forward to the coming out, and I think it's going to do really well for you. So all the best.
If it does, it's a good album. Whether it does or not, but I do hope for it.
And I'd love to chat with you. Maybe early again, because there's more stories that I'd love to dig. Like
stories that like that, and it's all. Somebody says do a book, but I don't want to do a book, because these people that I've met them because I'm me and they are them. I don't want their grandkids to hear the stories about what me and their granddad used to get up to. I could tell you there's some stories there, but that's nothing to do with what you've experienced in life. I guess it's like a Cosa Nostra thing. You don't take it on because they've got family. And young kids don't need to know all that stuff. They just look up to them and remember them being up there. That's the way to remember them.
Yeah.
Believe in them.
Absolutely.
All right,
Believe.
You know where I am. Anytime you want me, anytime you need me, I will be here.
Fantastic. All the best.
All the best.
Rock Daydream Nation, folks. Check it out. Believe, 1st of August. Cheers. Thank you. Thanks, John.